What the hell is retreating forward? Okay, but what is it actually? Retreating forwards is the idea that instead of backing away from enemies to safety, you should run forwards instead. While this seems counterintuitive, in some situations it makes sense. Generally, it will be your feeder QR duos that will be doing this play, and not weapons that will be holding it down. Okay, cool. But what are the benefits of retreating forward? When retreating, you are giving up space you worked hard for, and in a fast meta such as this one, keeping space is incredibly important. You take yourself out of play and become less important to the opponents. When retreating forwards to safety, not only do you become safe again, you are now behind the enemy. Retreating forwards is an effective way to create a flank. Well, what's the benefit of getting behind the enemy? Once you're behind your opponents, the opponents have to look both forwards and backwards at the same time. This creates a lot of pressure on them, as they are susceptible to a pinch. This causes the opponent to have to make a decision, either ignore you, or invest resources into getting you out. This is incredibly effective against teams that have bad communication, as the decision has to be made cohesively, and not one person can be on a different page. A team that miscommunicates will easily fold under the pressure of a flank. What are the main things that people mess up during flanks? A huge part of flanking is communication. You have to tell your team that you're going on a flank, and when to act upon it. A huge part of dealing with flanks is communicating where the flanker is. Likewise, a huge part of executing a flank is communication. Generally, a flanker should try to remain as annoying as possible throughout the duration of the flank. It is incredibly important that the flanker is constantly communicating with their team, when they are going to pinch, when they are going to live, and what they see at that moment. A good flank will ensure that all teammates are on the same page, and no one is lost on what to do. Higher level teams will communicate with their flanker if they want them to pinch with them, or rat in that spot. A crunch or pinch is when you and a teammate attack enemies from multiple sides, squeezing them into an area and causing them to have to look both behind them and in front of them. Ratting is when you try to live in an area for the longest amount of time possible. Usually these are high interest areas that are hard to clear out, but still provide a lot of pressure on the enemy team if they don't. A good example of this is Useless in Umami, where if they don't clear Useless, the opponents will be setting themselves up for a pinch. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. In this situation, we are playing Rushdown, therefore our retakes consist of throwing bodies. I will be following up on a dive that my Tetra took a couple seconds earlier. In this situation, I get 1. Instead of leaving, however, I try to rat around in this position as long as possible. In Lemuria, getting control of their zone is incredibly hard, and holding this key position allows me to pinch with my team on the other side. In this position, I'm playing with my Tetra on top right of Bluefin Depot. This position is incredibly strong, as if you get the block jump, you can pinch your opponents while they're trying to retake zone. By standing our ground and only retreating when we have to, by the time we're forced out completely, we've eaten through our entire penalty. This also leaves the opponent in a very bad retake spot, as it is very hard to retake when the zone is not on your side. To execute these sorts of plays, you have to have faith in your own mechanics and your teammates to follow up. It is incredibly important that you all remain on the same page. A Jesus flank to nowhere is not going to help anyone. This strategy seems pretty strong. Are there ways we can counter it? Let's take a look at this example. The Gal has flanked far right behind the pen, and has taken all of this area. In this situation, you can pull the Gal with the tower. By having a flank behind you, the opponents are leaving themselves open to a 3v4, which is advantageous to you. By progressing the objective, the Gal has to make a decision, either to come back and help their team, or continue with the flank. Likewise, in the same position where the Gal has all of right side, your team can invest more resources into getting the Gal out, such as the pencil and splash turning for it. While this is what the Gal wants, it is important that it is dealt with swiftly, and that the team knows that people are turning for it. Retreating forward can be a counterintuitive tactic. However, with enough practice and confidence, it can become a key part of your retakes and holds. Maintaining a high level of communication is important for the flanks to be as effective as possible. It may not produce the most flattering stat line, but all that really matters is that you win the game. Everyone has their own unique flanking style. Feel free to have a discussion in the comments. That was the video. See you next time.